is so much of poverty, there is so much of corruption, there are so many problems, there's so much of violence in our society. I think it's the time to take a relook at the systems of governance in our country. At the time of independence, we have preamble to our constitution. The preamble is the dream, the kind of India, the vision for India that our freedom fighters had. It's a beautiful preamble and we completely subscribe to it. But why is it that 65 years after independence, India is completely the opposite of what is written in the preamble? Completely opposite. Why did it happen? Something seriously went wrong. I think the kind of systems of governance that we put in place to achieve that dream there was something seriously wrong with those systems, if we take a look at that. At the time of independence, we inherited those systems from the Britishers and continued with those systems. We continued with the British laws, we continued with their entire system of governance. Before independence, this entire system of governance was directly accountable to the Britishers. This entire system of governance was directly accountable to the British Queen. Post-independence, this entire system has now become completely accountable to the politicians. This system is not accountable to the people of India. So though we visualized a democracy, however, it's not really democratic. The system is not really democratic. That is, I think, the main problem. And this Aadmi party wants to completely change the system, wants to make the system accountable directly to the people of this country. How? So the system of governance has three pillars: the executive, the parliament, the legislature, and the judiciary. Executive. Today, every single decision is taken either in Delhi or in the state capital. In my village, how will the government money be spent? This decision is taken in the planning commission. This decision is taken by a ministry in Delhi or a ministry in the state capital. In my village, how many hand pumps would be installed? Where would the hand pumps be installed? Whether a hand pump would be installed or an Indira Awas Yojana or PDS, public distribution system, or an old age pension or a widow pension, entire money, the way it would be spent is decided in Delhi. For instance, we went to a village in West Bengal. This village got 6 crore rupees annually, which is a huge amount. And this village wanted to start a school. They didn't have a school. They wanted 20 lakh rupees. But they could not use this amount of 6 crore rupees to build a school because this entire 6 crore rupees was all tied funds. This much money for NREGA, this much money for old age pension, this much money for this much money. They couldn't build a school. So this entire money is decided in Delhi. So what we want is that the people of a particular village should sit together, all the people. It's called Gram Sabha. When the people, the general body of all the villages is called Gram Sabha. The Gram Sabha should have the power to decide what do we want, where should the government money be spent. Not Panchayat. Panchayats have turned corrupt, so kindly make a distinction between Panchayat and Gram Sabha. Panchayat means Sarpanch, whereas Gram Sabha means the people. We want the decision-making body to be the Gram Sabha. So let the people decide how they want to spend money. In a city, we have municipal wards. Every municipal ward should be broken up into small mohallas. And let Mohalla Sabha, the people living in that mohalla, in a colony, sit together and decide how the government money should be spent. For instance, we see that the same footpath in our colony is broken again and again and again it is constructed. The government money is spent on that. Whereas we keep on making a complaint to the municipality that the street light in front of my house is not working, the drain is not working, the sewer is not working, kindly do something about it. They would say there are no funds. But we see that the funds are being misused. They are spending money on things which we don't need. So why is it not possible that the people living in that area, they sit together and they decide how the money should be used in my area? This is the power that we want the people to enjoy. Second, the government functionaries. In my area, there is a government school. There are 20 vacancies of teachers. My children are not getting good education. I keep on writing to the education minister, that please appoint more teachers. He is not bothered because he is interested in his own politics, the state education minister. But at one go, they would appoint 10,000 teachers. and they would take bribes in appointments, in selections. Why is it not possible that because it is my children who are studying in the school, why can't the Mohalla Sabha or the Gram Sabha sit and they decide that let's have 20 more teachers? Let them appoint a small selection committee. Let Mohalla Sabha appoint a small selection committee. That selection committee will appoint teachers in that school. Why should we depend upon the education minister? If the doctors in my government hospital is not working, the Mohalla Sabha should have the power to sack the doctor. The Gram Sabha should have the power to sack the doctor. They should have the power to summon the doctor. If the sweepers in my area are not working, the Mohalla Sabha should have the power to penalize the sweepers. And it is eminently possible. We've implemented it in many areas where the local municipal councillor was ready. We've done these experiments. It's really possible. So we want the people to enjoy control over funds and functionaries. But there would be some issues which are beyond a village, which are beyond a mohalla. For instance, suppose the government wants to construct a state highway. That decision obviously has to be taken by the state government. There would be some issues left which should be decided by the central government, in which there can't be direct people's participation. For instance, foreign affairs, external security of the country, banking, currency. These are some issues on which the central government will have to decide. So this is the kind of system that we are looking for as far as the executive is concerned. Legislature. The laws in this country are made without any reference to the people, without any participation of the people. The laws are completely thrust upon the people. Whereas the people wanted Jan Lokpal Bill, the people wanted a strong anti-corruption law which ensures that if anyone does corruption in this country, he will go to jail, he will be punished. The government is not willing to do it. There were several surveys that were done by so many TV channels which said that more than 80% people in this country want a Jan Lokpal Bill. But the government is still not interested. 40 years this Lokpal Bill is languishing in the parliament. Why? Because if this bill is passed, many of these members of parliament will go to jail. But when it comes to their own salaries, within 15 minutes the parliament unanimously decides, all the parties cutting across party lines, all of them come together and they raise their own salaries. So we want that the parliament, the important laws, not all the laws, it's not possible, but the most important laws should be passed in the parliament after consultation with the people. Is it possible to consult 120 crore people? Yes, it is possible. There are models available. Out of all the democracies in the world, all the democracies in the world have something called referendum and initiative. Just 5 countries don't have referendum and initiative. And India happens to be one of those unfortunate ones. What is referendum? What is initiative? A referendum means that if the government or the parliament passes a law and the people want to amend that law, the people have the power to make an amendment. So the people make this thing to the government goes for a referendum, and through referendum, people can either amend a law or they can completely reject a law, and the parliament will have to accept it. Initiative means if the people want to get a new law passed, then the people can propose that law and the government will have to actually accept that law. For instance, in Switzerland, if 50,000 people sign on a piece of paper, it has to be presented as a bill in parliament. If 1 lakh people sign on a piece of paper, then it has to be presented as a constitutional amendment in the parliament. So if in Switzerland people can actually suggest new laws, they can suggest amendments to the constitution. And if so many countries have this, not just one, so many countries, barring 5 countries, why shouldn't India also enjoy this? So we want that the laws in this country should be passed in consultation with the people of this country. And the third is the judiciary. This entire judicial system has been directly borrowed from the Britishers. We have Supreme Court, we have High Courts. One has to pay at least 1 lakh rupee or 1.5 lakh rupees for every single hearing to the advocate in a Supreme Court or a High Court. Can you afford it? I can't afford it. None of us can afford it. So is Supreme Court meant only for rich people? Is it meant for less than 1% of the population? I am very sure that post-independence, not a single poor person would have gone to the Supreme Court or High Court. He can't afford it. So that means the Supreme Court, the judiciary is not judiciary is not meant for ordinary people in this country. When it comes to a fight between Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani, then that fight is solved by the Supreme Court. When you have to settle the dispute, family dispute of Birla family, that is settled by the Supreme Court. So is Supreme Court meant to settle the disputes of Ambanis and Birla families? Or is it meant to solve the problems of the people of this country? If I want to go to Supreme Court, then I have to go to an advocate and plead before him that please do my case free of cost. If he agrees to do it, then only I can go to the Supreme Court. So is justice available in this country as a matter of charity and not as a matter of right? Then what is the constitution about? We have to change this system. Justice has to be available free. It should be directly accessible at my doorstep, and it should be fast. This is the kind of judiciary that we propose.